welcome to Daily Briefing. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sarah. July 1st, 2026.
Today we're tracking a historic drop in the Japanese yen and a major Supreme Court decision on the docket regarding AR-15 rifles. Plus, it's a beautiful 52 degrees and clear skies right now here in Parker, Colorado, heading up to a high of 89.
That sounds like perfect weather to stay inside and catch up on the news, so let's get into it.
All right, turning to U.S. news, we're starting with a very concerning First Amendment story out of New York. A resident there says law enforcement officers showed up at his home with a warning after he publicly criticized immigration and customs enforcement.
That's exactly the kind of thing that sets off immediate alarm bells for civil rights advocates. Having armed officers knock on your door because of something you posted online about a government agency feels like a direct intimidation tactic.
It really does. And the resident reported that the officers were explicitly referencing his public comments about ICE during the visit. We're seeing a massive wave of concern regarding free speech rights and how local or federal authorities are monitoring critics of immigration policy.
The chilling effect here is the real issue. If everyday citizens think they're going to get a house call from law enforcement just for posting a critique of immigration enforcement, they're going to stop speaking out entirely.
Exactly, and that strikes at the core of political discourse in this country. We don't yet have the full transcripts or recordings of this specific interaction, but the fact that the visit happened at all is drawing intense scrutiny from legal watchdogs.
We'll need to see if the agencies involved release an official statement justifying the visit. Unless there was a specific, credible threat made, it's a very dark look for those departments to be policing political speech.
Coming up, we'll look at a massive defense spending plan out of the UK. Moving over to global news, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer just announced a massive
£300 billion is a staggering figure, even when you spread it out over the next decade. It shows just how seriously the UK is taking the current geopolitical climate and the rising global tensions we've been covering.
It's a clear signal to both allies and adversaries. Starmer specifically tied this funding to strengthening the collective defense capabilities of NATO, ensuring the UK remains a top-tier military power in Europe.
This also puts pressure on other European nations to step up their own defense budgets. When a major player like the UK commits this kind of capital to next-generation weapons and cyber warfare capabilities, it changes the expectations for the rest of the alliance.
Speaking of European security, the situation in Russia is taking a fascinating turn. Ukrainian drone attacks targeting Russian oil refineries have successfully plunged Russia into a severe summer fuel crisis.
That's a brilliant tactical shift by Ukraine. Instead of just fighting a war of attrition on the front lines, they're hitting Moscow's domestic energy supply where it hurts the most.
The disruption is massive, and it's directly weakening Russia's economic capacity to fund the ongoing war. When you can't refine oil efficiently, you can't keep your own domestic economy running smoothly, let alone fuel a massive military machine.
Right, and a summer fuel crisis means transportation and logistics inside Russia are going to bottleneck entirely. It's a stark reminder that energy infrastructure is one of the most vulnerable targets in modern conflicts.
Now, shifting to a story with major international implications that's playing out in the U.S., the Supreme Court has agreed to hear a case that will determine whether AR-15 rifles are protected under the Second Amendment.
This is the big constitutional showdown we've been waiting for. The ruling here is going to establish a major national precedent regarding the legality of assault weapon bans, which have been hotly debated for decades.
Lower courts have been split on this for years, with some states banning them entirely and others fiercely protecting them. The Supreme Court stepping in means we're finally going to get a definitive answer on how the Second Amendment applies to these specific, highly popular firearms.
The international community is watching this closely too, given how unique U.S. gun laws are compared to the rest of the world. A ruling protecting AR-15 rifles would cement that cultural and legal divide even further.
Finally, in global news, Iran has officially rejected French President Emmanuel Macron's proposed security plan to clear and secure the Strait of Hormuz.
That's a massive blow to European diplomatic efforts.
Macron was trying to build a coalition to guarantee safe passage, but Iran's rejection heightens geopolitical tensions in the region significantly. It leaves commercial vessels highly vulnerable to seizure or attack by regional actors.
Without a secured agreement, insurance premiums for shipping through that corridor are.
When we come back, we'll look at a major political storm brewing in Tamil Nadu. Turning to India and Tamil Nadu, the digital economy is driving some massive capital market moves. Jio Platforms and the National Stock Exchange of India are both planning to go public by the end of the year in what will be landmark listings.
Those are two absolute giants in the Indian market. These share sales really tell the story of a country that's entirely glued to its phones, reflecting the rapid growth of India's digital infrastructure.
Meanwhile, down in Tamil Nadu, things are getting incredibly tense politically. 3 individuals were just arrested following allegations of a 35 crore plot to topple the government of Chief Minister Vijay.
That's a massive political storm, especially with the alleged links to the DMK party. This development has completely intensified the rivalries between the state's ruling and opposition factions.
It's going to dominate the regional news cycle for weeks. Also in India, the government is set to examine WhatsApp's upcoming username feature due to rising concerns over potential online fraud.
This is that classic tension between user privacy and national security. WhatsApp wants to give people usernames so they don't have to share phone numbers, but regulators are worried it'll make it harder to track down scammers.
Coming up next, we'll dive into the stock market's rocky start to the second half of the year. Let's talk markets because Dow futures are hitting reverse this morning. This comes right after the stock market wrapped up its strongest first half of a year in 5 years.
Investors are clearly taking a breath and cashing in some of those massive gains. The reversal really reflects a growing caution about where we go from here, especially with shifting expectations around inflation data.
I saw that too, and the Federal Reserve interest rate policies are the big dark cloud hanging over this rally. Markets were pricing in multiple rate cuts by the end of the year, but the latest economic indicators suggest the Fed might keep things elevated for longer than anyone wanted.
So, what does that mean practically for everyday investors with a 401k?
It means you might want to brace for a bumpy summer. Nobody wants to be caught holding the bag if the economic narrative suddenly shifts from a soft landing to a prolonged stagnation.
That uncertainty is exactly what drives these sudden pullbacks in the futures market.
Over in foreign exchange, the Japanese yen has plunged to a fresh 40-year low against the US dollar. Traders are now on high alert for potential FX intervention by Japanese authorities to prop up the currency.
A 40-year low is just historic territory. The Bank of Japan has to be sweating right now because the interest rate gap between Japan and the United States is just too wide to ignore any longer.
As long as U.S. rates stay high in Japan, keeps theirs near zero, the capital is going to keep flowing out of the yen. If the Japanese government does intervene, it's going to send absolute shockwaves through the global currency markets.
They've stepped in before, but it usually only provides a temporary fix. The underlying economic fundamentals have to change for the yen to actually recover its footing against the dollar.
In the crypto space, Taiwan just passed a comprehensive cryptocurrency bill that's raising the bar across the board. The legislation mandates strict licensing, reserve requirements, and heavy penalties for non-compliance. Speaking of crypto volatility, Circle shares plummeted 17% following the launch of the OpenUSD stablecoin.
That's a brutal hit for Circle. When you have heavyweights like BlackRock and Stripe backing a direct competitor, you're in serious trouble regarding your market dominance.
The new network threatens Circle's market share directly by eliminating minting fees and actually sharing reserve yield with partners. It's a totally different business model that incentivizes platforms to adopt OpenUSD over USD coin.
Walk me through that, because sharing yield sounds.
It really is. Instead of the issuer keeping all the interest earned on the cash reserves backing the stablecoin, they're passing a cut of that profit directly to the exchanges and apps that use it.
Circle is going to have to pivot fast or risk losing its institutional backing. Sharing that yield is a massive carrot to dangle in front of payment processors.
Meanwhile, ARK Invest was busy buying the dip. They purchased over $75 million in cryptocurrency shares during the massive market downturn in June, including $44 million in Coinbase alone.
Cathie Wood and her team are sticking to their aggressive, high-conviction strategy. They love acquiring depressed digital asset equities during these market corrections, betting heavily on the long-term upside of the sector.
Also in the business world, Anthropic has restored access to its Claude Fable 5 and Mythos 5 AI models. This comes after the U.S. government finally lifted temporary export controls that had frozen access globally.
That weeks-long suspension was a major headache for enterprise developers relying on those models. It was triggered by a cybersecurity finding, so getting the green light from the government is a huge relief for the company's revenue stream.
When we come back, we have more on Anthropic's big day, plus a major breakthrough in HIV research. On the tech side, Anthropic is making waves beyond just getting their export controls lifted. They just announced Claude Science, a new flagship product designed to autonomously conduct scientific research for biotech and pharmaceutical applications.
This is a massive leap forward for the industry. We're moving from AI models that just summarize text to autonomous agents that can actually hypothesize, test, and analyze complex data in highly specialized scientific fields.
The potential for drug discovery.
It also represents a major expansion of the Claude ecosystem. They're clearly targeting enterprise clients in the life sciences sector who have the massive budgets required to support this kind of advanced computing.
And tying back to that export control story, Anthropic is redeploying its Claude Fable 5 model with updated classifiers. These new safeguards are specifically designed to block the cybersecurity threats that caused the U.S. government suspension in the first place.
That makes perfect sense. The regulators weren't going to lift those restrictions without some serious technical assurances that the vulnerabilities were permanently patched.
Moving out to space, NASA has awarded nearly $600 million in contracts to fund upcoming lunar lander missions. The money is going to Astrobotic, Firefly Aerospace, and Intuitive Machines to land 4 new scientific missions on the Moon in late 2028.
This is a massive injection of capital into the commercial space sector. It really accelerates the Artemis program and shows just how much NASA is relying on commercial partnerships for long-term lunar exploration.
Establishing the long-term moon-based program requires a steady, reliable cadence of these supply and science runs. By funding 3 different companies, NASA is building crucial redundancy into the supply chain.
It's a smart strategic move. If one provider runs into technical issues or delays, you still have 2 others capable of delivering vital payloads to the lunar surface.
Back here on Earth, we're looking at some alarming climate data. Global ocean temperatures broke all-time records in June, prompting scientists to warn that marine ecosystems are entering completely uncharted territory.
The charts on this are just terrifying to look at. The rapid warming is directly threatening coral reefs and marine life, pushing entire species past their thermal survival limits.
It's not just about the oceans either. This kind of heat accelerates global climate instability, driving more extreme weather events on land. We're seeing the cascading effects of this warming right now.
Uncharted territory.
In medical news, there's a very promising development regarding HIV. A new study published in Nature demonstrates that vaccination can successfully elicit broadly neutralizing antibodies against HIV in primates.
That's a significant milestone in the global effort to develop an effective human HIV vaccine. Eliciting those specific antibodies has been the holy grail of this research for decades.
The virus mutates so quickly that traditional vaccines have always failed, but broadly neutralizing antibodies can target the stable parts of the virus. Proving this works in primates is the biggest step we've taken toward human trials for this specific approach.
It brings a lot of hope to a scientific field that has seen its fair share of heartbreaking setbacks. I'll be watching closely to see how quickly they can move this into phase 1 human trials.
Finally, in tech and entertainment, Neon is reportedly closing a deal to acquire
Luca Guadagnino taking on the modern artificial intelligence boom is a perfect pairing of a visionary director and timely subject matter. It's easily going to be one of the most highly anticipated cinematic explorations of the tech industry.
Coming up, we'll wrap up with a historic World Cup victory and a blockbuster trade in the NBA. All right, wrapping up with sports and culture.
That's a
It keeps their championship hopes alive, and the celebrations back home in Mexico City were absolutely wild. Also at the World Cup, Kylian Mbappe scored twice to lead France to a 3-0 victory over Sweden.
That dominant performance ties him with Lionel Messi for the World Cup scoring lead with 6 goals.
Switching to the NBA, the Toronto Raptors have reportedly agreed to acquire star forward Kawhi Leonard from the Los Angeles Clippers.
This is a
And finally, over at Wimbledon, Serena Williams suffered an early exit after losing her singles match in the opening round.
It's a disappointing turn in her late career.
Today's stories show us that whether it's the shifting tides of the global economy or the rapid evolution of artificial intelligence, the pace of change is only accelerating.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
Take care, everyone.